Okay, we're live. We're going to check and make sure technology is happening and happy. I have with me Ashley, and it's Ashley McCrary, right?
That's
Okay, I
right.
just wanted to make sure that I'm saying it right because, you know, my name's hard to pronounce. Okay, it looks like we are accurately live in the page. I'm going to check your page because I'm curious. We're trying to go live into Ashley's page too, so we're going to check her page and see if it's working. It is. This is glorious.
Yay.
Oh my
This is
goodness. I'm
perfect.
so excited. Okay. So Ashley is here with us. And obviously, this is virtual, but we're so excited to have Ashley with us. She is someone who is a little bit, I think, more well known, at least as I came into the ocular melanoma world. She seemed like kind of a name that is recognized because she is part of the Auburn cluster. And so she's part of a group of patients that kind of all went to school together or to the same school. And they found out over the course of years that they all got diagnosed with the same cancer. Um,
hmm
and I know at some point in your journey, you guys did a ton of research to try and figure out if there was some link. And so far, that research, as far as I understand, has been inconclusive, right?
Yes. Well, there's
Which I mean,
still,
oh, so
I,
frustrating.
it can be frustrating. They're still actually working on it now.
That's
We,
good.
so yeah, I can go into that in a few minutes whenever you want me to,
Okay, perfect.
share that part
Well,
with you.
let's just kind of start to the beginning. Like, where were
Okay.
you in life when you were first diagnosed with ocular melanoma?
Yeah. I was 42 years old and lived in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. I live in Auburn, Alabama now. And, I most people who know my story know that I had gone to the beach with some friends who actually saw a spot on my iris, and I'm embarrassed to tell you, I came home, I didn't do anything about it. About a month goes by, and my husband worked for an oncology group in Memphis at the time, and we had been invited to a dinner at one of the doctor's houses, and his one of the wives there also saw the spot on my eye. To make a long story short, that her husband said, you need to go have that checked out and looked at. And so that week I tried to make an appointment, but it was going to be like 3 weeks later. So part of my story that I like sharing with people, Danae, is that I ended up going to Target that week, and I saw a Vision Works on the corner and saw a sign that said, free eye exam. So I hopped into the little Vision Works and saw this delightful young lady who did this eye exam, but she didn't notice the spot on my eye. And if, like in that circumstance where that's a great place to get glasses, it's not a good place to go get an eye exam. And so anyway, she was wonderful though. I know that God put her in my path for a reason, because she got me in with who I needed to see, which was Dr. Matthews in Memphis. When I went there and had all the normal tests, like I'm sure you had done, they came in and they originally thought it was an iris melanoma. And then he sent me to Dr. Matt Wilson, who a lot of people know, and people in the Southeast do go see him in Memphis. He obviously treats adults, but he sees a lot of the children at St. Jude. So when I went to see him, he did, the ultrasound on my eye. I don't know if you had that done, but that was a crazy experience.
It's very trippy
And
feeling,
then
I feel like.
very, yeah, very weird feeling. And of course, took a bunch of pictures and came in and he said, this is not an iris melanoma. It's actually, I have a ciliary, or had a ciliary body melanoma, but it was so large and had grown in such an awkward shape that he said I wasn't a candidate for radiation, because he was like, it was just too big. And so I got a second opinion at Emory, actually, and came back and decided to have my eye enucleated. Both doctors agreed that just the shape of it was one that the plaque radiation wouldn't be able to get the whole thing. So
Hmm.
I ended up having my eye enucleated, and that was 9 years ago in August of 2012.
My
Um,
goodness.
Yes, but right at that time, the Castle, test had come out, and I was able to find out very early on some of my genetic markers, and I did know that I was a class two, or it was a class two tumor, but that's really about the extent of what I knew. But I knew enough at the time to know that I needed to stay on top of my surveillance. So I originally had scans every 4 months. I did that for 6 years, and then I moved to a 6 month surveillance um, up until October of this past year, and
Okay.
obviously was metastatically free for 8 years.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Okay, obviously we're going to cover starting last year shortly, but I do want to go back just real fast and just
Yeah.
cover because I know this is, I feel like this is just it's a big thing that happens.
Mhm.
And I know this was long ago and you've since then kind of, you've experienced this trauma, but then you've also experienced the next level of trauma.
Mhm.
So if you can just kind of put yourself back in, 9 years ago when you were first diagnosed and officially got the opinion that you would need to have your eye enucleated. um, what was your gut instinct reaction? Like, were you?
Mm. That's a tricky one. So, this is kind of a tender thing. I don't know about you when you were a little girl or whatever, but one of the things that for me as a little girl, and it's kind of a funny story within our family, but one of my defining features, my family would say, would be my eyes. If you were to meet my father, he's got beautiful, both my parents have pretty eyes, but my dad has got really long eyelashes. And I can remember being told even at 3 and 4 years old, oh, you have your daddy's eyes and you have your daddy's eyes. And I can remember when Dr. Wilson told me, I mean, he was very matter of fact. It was, I mean, I don't know how you tell somebody that they have cancer and they're going to have their eye removed and it be a good conversation. I was
Yeah,
devastated. I can remember literally I was standing up and like kind of not falling, but falling back against the wall and being like, have my eye removed. Are you kidding me? I was completely shocked. And the remarkable thing, and I think for me too, you go 6 to 8 weeks without an eye, and you have to wear a patch. And I think that was another thing that was really hard for me. Is I was very busy. I have 4 children. My
yeah,
oldest was a junior in high school, and then my second was a freshman, then a seventh grader, and a second grader. And so this was a really busy time, driving and carpool, and all of my kids were involved in sports and church and music, and it was just a crazy time. And so to not be able to drive for a little while, to have to wear a patch, and I can remember just feeling like, God, I can't wait to get rid of the patch so I can just have some normalcy and people not stare at me all the time and that kind of thing. I had fun with it though, Danae. Like I'm one who I like a little levity. Back then, I can remember monogramming was a real big thing, and I would monogram my patches and I blinged them out. I kind of had fun with it, but at the time, to answer your question, it was a very tricky time for me. I will tell you, I was a speech therapist and worked in a hospital in a medical setting at that time, and I actually, to feel confident about driving, I saw an occupational therapist and went to this little driving school for a little bit so that I would feel confident driving, and that really helped me. And I think mine is on my right eye, so um, my blind side is pretty significant. And I remember that being my biggest concern, was that. I think the other thing that was hard for me at that time is I was very positive, even though I knew that I was told that my castle test that was the worst outcome I could have as being a class 2. But I was very positive that I thought I really want to use this as as a way to be maybe positive in the lives of other people. And my faith is really important to me. It was very important to me too at that time. So being able to kind of walk through this with grace and humility and whatnot was very important to me. So anyway, all that to say that that I really kind of bounced back kind of quickly. I ended up going to work within 3 weeks wearing my patch. I didn't miss a game, didn't miss an event. Just thought that it's gonna be okay. My family was a huge support, both my sisters and kids and husband, who's amazing, and we just kind of bounced back after that.
yeah. No, for sure. I feel like I just feel like it's really important to just validate like that the initial shock and the initial like what things happen.
Yes.
You can get to a place where you're comfortable and you're confident and you're okay, but
Yes.
before you get there, it's a journey. And
Yes.
that journey, it looks different for everyone. People find support
Mhm.
in different ways. So I love that you shared like that your faith has been supportive, that your family was
Family.
supportive,
Mhm.
and just that really that you kind of took this on. I mean, for lack of a better term, like you took this by the horns and you just said, no, like
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this keep me back.
I'll tell you too, I
And
was
now you
very
can't even tell. Like, I mean, I didn't even know that you had your eye enucleated, and just looking at you now, like, I can't tell.
I would tell you two things. One, the person who was my ocularist, Bob Thomas, he's phenomenal. He does all you can imagine how many children go to St. Jude who have eye cancer and have to have prosthetic eyes. And I can remember sitting down with him and him saying, "You know what I get to do today? I get to copy what the God of the universe made." And he hand painted my eye to look like my other eye, and it's just phenomenal. My husband was involved. My best friend at the time, Martha, was involved in actually making my eye, which is kind of fun. They
That's
put
so
the
cool.
veins on there. It was a really cool experience. But the other thing that was cool and unusual, and this would probably segue us into the Auburn thing, is like I had a lady on Facebook yesterday that she said, I don't know anybody who has ocular melanoma. I was just diagnosed and I don't know what to do and I don't know where to turn and that kind of thing. I didn't have that. I knew two girls very well who had ocular melanoma who both went to Auburn with me. And I can remember telling Dr. Wilson, I know two girls who went to Auburn with me who had this cancer. And he was like, there's no way. There's no way. He told me how rare this was. And I was like, no, both of them had their eye removed. Um, they were both around my age. And so anyway, at that time, I remember, I mean, literally the day I was diagnosed, I called Allison Allred and called Julie Green is the other girl. And both of them really helped me walk through that time and told me what to expect. And so I'm one of those who I can't imagine going through this without knowing a soul. And there's so many people out there that that's their experience. And so I'm thankful for people like you and for a Cure Insight and, you know, just having the resources available to people. Because when I got online, I didn't find anything. I didn't know what to look up, but I didn't find anything. And these people were just very instrumental in my life at that time.
I love that. Sorry, I was kind of trying to play fire extinguisher over here. We had
Yes.
some comments come in saying that our video's been interrupted. So we're going to see. I'm just going to check really quick. So I'm going to make a note for my editor here later. Richard, you're going to cut this part out.
Let's go to my phone and on Facebook page, check Ashley
Yeah.
McCrary Facebook page
So
too.
that was for me. I just checked on my phone and it looked like it was fine. I'm
Mhm.
checking on the ocular melanoma, a cure insight ocular melanoma.
So anyway, all that to say that
It seems
that
like it's
I
fine.
really kind of bounced back kind of quickly. I ended up going to work within 3 weeks wearing my patch.
Okay, it'll be interesting to know if some of these people are coming in from Twitter and if that is giving us some issues because I can't see which place is not responding. But to go back to what you were saying, you were talking about how when you developed, like you discovered the Auburn cluster and how just
Mhm.
finding people who were in this with you was so helpful.
It was very helpful.
I'm the same way. I mean, with everything in my life that I've ever gone through, postpartum depression, a miscarriage, like any of those kinds of things, I have thrived like with finding that community and just finding the people who also get it, me too kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And um so I just feel like that no, it's okay. I just feel like that community piece can be so healing. Um
Yeah.
and and it can just be sorry, I just changed our view by accident. We're going to keep it like this. I like that better.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it can be really helpful to know that you're not alone in this.
Not
um,
alone.
and I do know, crazily enough, like I have seen some really crazy stories, and I hope to have one or two of them come on and talk because they're 20 years out and they
Mm-hmm.
went through this from my age, so like young mom, early to late 20s, to then now they have kids in college. They're
Mm-hmm.
metastatic free, which I think is kind of a given considering how far they are out. But they never knew anyone until this last year when they found my page on Instagram somehow. So
Yeah.
anyway, I feel like that community piece is such an important piece. I know that maybe not everybody feels like they need it, but I feel like it never seems like it hurts to find people who get it.
No, I think if anything, there's a lot. One of the things I've learned with this is that you have to be educated and be an advocate for yourself. And I do want to talk about that a little bit. I don't know if this is a good time to go into
Yeah, no,
that,
go
but
ahead.
be fine. So, because after I was diagnosed, I lived in Memphis, and after I had my eye removed, I did follow up with Dr. Wilson, but he sent me on to an ocular oncologist I mean, not an ocular oncologist, just a regular oncologist. And I actually shopped around a little bit. He sent me to a great doctor in Memphis who had maybe seen 12 people in his whole career. And so, really, the oncologists out there don't know a whole lot about this. And he recognized that his role in this was really to cover my surveillance. And some people don't even realize what surveillance should be and should, whatever. So, for me, being class two, it was recommended, for every 4 months. But interestingly, you would think that like I would get a call from the oncologist saying, "Okay, it's time for you to schedule your test." But even very early on, even though he was a great doctor, and this also happened to me here in Auburn, I would have to call them and say, "Okay, it's time for me to schedule my scans." And I've talked to people over the years now who have been like, I didn't follow up with my scans because my doctor didn't call me. And that's where I want to say, please just know that you need to be the one to be an advocate for yourself, and to know what type of scans you probably need. That not every doctor understands what kind of scans that we need to have. And so, for me, I had initially just a CAT scans of my abdomen and an X-ray of my lungs because it travels through the bloodstream to our liver most of the time. So that's what I had until I moved to Auburn. And we'll probably get into this, but I had eaten lunch with Dr. Orloff in New York one day, and she and I were talking about surveillance, and she suggested that I start doing an MRI. And with being class two, I probably should have done that all along. And so I switched to MRIs instead of CAT scans. And for me personally, that was the better option. But I
Yeah.
still had to call my doctor and say, "Hey, it's time for my scans." And a lot of people don't do that. And then the other reason I mention that is there are a lot of people too who, if they were diagnosed a long time ago, like you were just talking about, they think, "Oh, I'm 5 years." You always hear with cancer, when you're 5 years out, you're probably good. So some people have the misconception, and I hate this for me, but if I would have had that thought of 5 years out, I'm fine. I don't have to worry about surveillance or whatever. We could be having a very different discussion, or maybe not even discussing anything right now, because I went 8 years, without metastasis, and it was found obviously during surveillance. So I tell people, just because you've been 10 years out, or even 12 years out, or 15 years out, I would still follow up with surveillance. I would not miss a scan, is my personal feeling about it. What about you? I mean, how often do you get your scans?
So I am kind of a little bit different, I think, of a case just because of maybe where things are in the recommended scan protocol. Like now that I've started my journey, I'm a little over a year out. But initially, when I first was diagnosed, my biopsy came back. I came back class two, PRAME positive, and my my ocular oncologist immediately recommended me to a uveal melanoma specialist here in the Valley in Arizona. And
Okay.
his name is Dr. Moser. He actually spoke in the event, I believe, in the track
Mhm.
one of the, I believe, event that we had a couple weekends ago. So he is my regular local oncologist. But because of my biopsy, because of where I live, kind of, and just also some of the availability of the adjuvant trials. I actually have my scans monitored directly by Dr. Sato out in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. I saw you there recently.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so he monitors me every 3 months and he orders those, but I have to. I mean, I have the orders, but I have to set them all up
Hmm.
because I have to get them done locally here and then basically bring a disc to him. So I get scans right now every 3 months. I'm in the beginning of year two, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and those scans happen every 3 months per his protocol recommendations.
Right.
As far as I understand, he's not planning to move me out to 6 months until at least 5 years, and
Exactly.
obviously that obviously depends on. Well, I hope that it doesn't change, and I'm going to push for it not to change because I feel like just because I get to the 3 year mark and everything's fine doesn't mean that everything is fine. So I want those scans, and I'm with you there on the whole advocating, um, advocating for getting your scans regularly and
Hmm.
not letting a doctor. I don't see Sato or Orloff or any of the experienced uveal melanoma experts. I don't see them ever saying, "Oh yeah, you're fine. It's only been 3 years,
Yeah.
but you're fine." But for those of you maybe listening who don't have a doctor who is as experienced in uveal melanoma, you need to get your scans. Don't give up on the scans. We all know they're uncomfortable. We don't like them. We don't like the constant reminder and like the living in 3-month increments. It's not fun, but um, but it is important because
Yeah.
just like with eyes, I mean, it's early detection is absolutely key as far as treatment
Yeah.
can go. I mean, I think more so with eyes than with metastatic disease, as far as I'm understanding, because I know with metastatic disease, there's still really it's just still much more of an unknown field,
Mhm.
and they're working to remedy that and to rectify that. But it is still in the works.
Right.
So, um, but but yeah, I really hope that things continue to improve and look better for lots and lots and lots of patients who have had it spread. Um,
Yeah. I think that can you hear me okay? Um, I was checking to make sure we were on Facebook because there were some people saying it wasn't showing up again,
yeah,
but
so it looks like it's not showing up on our Facebook page, but if you do head, we still have people watching. So if you do head over, of course, Facebook isn't going to get this message, but if you do head over to Ashley's Facebook page, it's working,
yeah, I
and it
see it
looks
on
like
there.
it's working on Twitter and it's working on
Mhm.
YouTube. So
Yeah,
this could just be kind of a glitch with Restream,
that's okay.
because yeah, fun things, but it's okay. We're
Yeah.
recording it. It's all good.
I
This
think
will
the
be on
other
the
thing,
podcast later, so no worries.
that's right. I was going to say too, again, just the education part of things. Two things I was going to say about that. One, there was a lady that she had gone 10 years, and again, they didn't have the Castle testing when she was initially diagnosed, and she wasn't having any scans at all, and she was having pains in her abdomen and things like that. And by the time they did finally go in, of course, her liver, it had actually spread all over the place, and she unfortunately did not live very long after that. But again, my point is to not think that this is a one and done type of you're treated and you're. I hate to say it like this, that you're okay. Um, and I just want to encourage people to continue with that surveillance, regardless how far out you are, even if it's just a once a year thing. And the other thing I was going to say is I did not know that if you are having an MRI, that you should use Eovist as the contrast. And that was another thing, just education. I remember talking to Dr. Orloff when I was diagnosed. It ends up that probably if I had used Eovist in the scan 6 months prior, they may have actually found the tumors when they were much smaller. I'm one of those who I have over 100 tumors in my liver now, but 8 of them are measurable, and
Mhm.
they probably could have been seen, the measurable ones, 6 months prior had I been using the correct contrast or the right contrast.
So definitely an important thing then to, if you are having your scans ordered by a doctor who doesn't know as much about uveal melanoma, to do your research and to basically go to the experts, like Dr. Sato, Dr. Orloff. Their protocol seems to be the most widely accepted protocol, and to push for those kinds of things. Scans every 3 months if you're class two. They have a specific scan protocol that I
They
believe
do.
I have
And you
sent
can
it to
just
a few
ask him
people.
for it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you can email Thomas Jefferson Kidney Kimmel Cancer Center and ask them for their scan protocol for uveal melanoma and ocular melanoma patients, and they will give it to
That's
you.
right.
I do have the file somewhere, and I will make it's on my to-do list of many, many things. I have a plan to make a file, basically like a file list that everybody can access that we'll have to our website. So that is one of the things that I plan on having on our website as a click it and you can just see it, because I
I'm
feel
so
like some
proud of you.
people want that.
I appreciate
And
that so much.
we just want all those resources in one place. So, I mean, seriously, Ashley, if you have things, send them over and I will just
Mm,
put them all in one place.
yeah.
Um, and as far as, so, okay, you mentioned, I know this was kind of going back to the very beginning. And then after this, I want to kind of move forward to present.
Okay. Mhm.
But you mentioned that your eye exam, as far as getting this free eye exam done at Vision Works and Target, that until that point, you had never had an eye exam except for in elementary school.
That's so sad, but yes, that's correct. I
Okay,
had
but
not
it's
had
also normal in our
normal.
society. It's
Mhm.
very normally accepted that if you don't need glasses and there's nothing wrong with your eyesight, you don't get seen regularly.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for sure.
Right, and you know what else is I'm not fair skinned. I tan well. I never did a tanning bed. I didn't have symptoms except for every now and then when I was on the computer, I'd have blurry vision. And I was 42, so I thought, oh, I just need readers or something like that. So I just wasn't taking any of
Not
the.
always getting older.
Yes, I know. I didn't have the flashes of light that some people have and that kind of thing. And so it was more of just the blurry vision. And I should have not just gone and bought readers at the grocery store like I did. I should have had an eye exam. So definitely that. And I think the other thing is right now, I'm not sure how it is in Arizona, but there's a lot of places that in order for you to get a dilated eye exam, you have to pay $25 more. And
Mhm.
which I
It's
think is
like a
just unfortunate.
deterrent. It's a
Yes, I know.
huge deterrent.
It is, and then people
It's
are like,
silly. It's only $25.
exactly, but I hate that that's even an issue. I think I probably would have been like, "I don't know that I need that," and they take the pictures now, and
Mhm.
even, the different
But
I've
it's an
talked to doc.
opt-in. It's
Yes, but even
uh,
then, the pictures are not the camera that they're using, they can leave out the small portion that just doesn't come in the view. It's just like how my
mhm.
hand is going out of view. It doesn't come in the view of what they
Yeah.
need to see. So really having a dilated eye exam for those who are kind of sitting on the fence whether they should do that or not, that's really what we need to stress, to keep stressing that, to have that dilated eye exam.
Yeah. Oh, so those of you who are watching and are following us on Instagram, um, keep sharing our videos and our reels and things that we have. We have
Mhm.
some really cool news. We actually went viral, and that means that we had a reel that I did. I just basically just did a reel showing, hey, get your eyes dilated. And I said, why? I
Yeah.
said, who should do it? And I said that you should do it every year because this is just like a woman's well check or a general health well check,
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
skin check every year. This should be standard protocol. And the
Right.
only way that it's going to become standard protocol is if we petition for that and we ask for that. If we go
Mhm.
in for that and basically make the medical community, make it known in the medical community, this is what we want to be standard of care.
Yeah.
And um, so those of you who, have shared that video, I just want to shout you out. Thank you so much for sharing that video because we are currently at 450,000 views
Wow,
on
that's
a
awesome.
5-second clip that says get dilated. So
Mm.
that's 450,000 people who have now got that in their head. Oh, I should get my eyes checked because
Mhm.
eye cancer is actually a real thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just thrilled with that. I would love to see that reel get up to 1 million views. So if you're listening, when you get off this video, go share it because the more shares that it gets, the more Instagram basically says, everybody watch, everybody watch.
And that's on the Cure Insight Instagram page?
Yes. So I'll
Okay.
just show you guys real quick, and then we're going to cover the last half of Ashley's story.
Mhm.
So on a Cure Insight, if you head over here to our main Instagram page,
Mhm.
you can see there are 4 different things at the top right here. Let me find there. So across the top, you're going to see these little. Oh, it doesn't want to share. You're going to see these little pictures, and one of them is like a camera, and it has a play sign in the middle of it, and it's like a square. And if you click on that, that's our reels. And so this is the reel that I'm talking about right here.
Okay.
Right there. So it's got me. I'm just being silly and goofy. But if you guys take a second today and just share this reel to your Instagram stories, let's see if we can get to 500,000 by the end of today. I think that would be cool.
That would be very
Um,
cool.
because this kind of spreading awareness and just making sure people know this is how we help people actually get checked out before
Mhm.
it's a class 2 tumor.
Yeah.
um, and and I feel like the research is showing that the earlier the eye tumor is detected, the better the prognosis later. So
Mhm. I
um,
agree.
okay, let's move on. All right, I don't know what's going on here. Hold on one sec. I'm gonna look at
Sure.
our channels real quick, and I'm gonna try taking. I don't know if it's gonna let me do it. I'm just wondering if I can take Twitter off. See if it. We have your Facebook page, looks good. Okay. I don't know if it's going to change anything, but we'll see. All right. Thanks for bearing with us with technical difficulties, my friends. It still shows that we have 30 some odd people watching. So I'm not sure where all these comments coming in. They must be coming in from the Facebook Ocular Melanoma page.
I wanna
um,
say On my page, I don't know that it's working on my page.
Okay. Well, I don't know where all of our people are watching, but if you are watching, let us know where you're watching from, and we would obviously just know that it's being recorded. Okay, so we've talked about your eye. We've talked about kind of how much you feel like advocating for those scans is important.
I've got double things coming through my ears. Are you still there?
I am still here. Yes.
Okay. I don't see it on my screen. I can't find you on mine anymore, but that's okay.
Okay. Well, I
Um,
can see you and I can hear you, so I think we're
okay.
good. You might have accidentally hit share screen. So if you go to the bottom, there might be a little box that says stop sharing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. But I'm just going to keep talking to you. I don't have to say it.
Perfect.
Um,
Um, okay, looks good there. But we've talked about kind of everything up to this point. Obviously, not
okay.
everything. I'm sure there were lots of things that you've adjusted to, lots of moments. And I
I
do want to
wouldn't mind
talk to you.
sharing. I wouldn't mind sharing before we talk about
Yeah.
what I'm doing right now. Just a very synopsis of the Auburn group, just real
Oh
quick,
yes, that
because
would be
people
good.
do ask.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, so I will say, in the beginning, like I said, I mentioned that I knew the two girls who went to school with me, Julie and Allison. And then Allison was being treated at Thomas Jefferson for liver mets at the time I was diagnosed. She told Dr. Orloff about me. They reached out and said, "Can we just kind of keep up with you?" The people from Thomas Jefferson. And so they did. And then when I moved to Auburn, I got a Facebook message from Mark McWilliams, a friend of his, and Mark had been in Auburn at the same time I was there. Was an architecture student, had been in treatment at Philadelphia, and had just passed away from liver metastasis. At the time he was being treated there was another gentleman also being treated in Philadelphia, and he was associated with Auburn. And so Mark's family was like, I think something's going on there. So that made two men that we knew of and three women. And so we posted a picture of my eye. If you actually Google ocular melanoma, my eye will come up on your screen somewhere, because you could see the tumor in my eye, and it had little tendrils, little dots around my pupil. Anyway, we shared that post on Facebook, me and Allison and Julie, just asking, is anybody else associated with Auburn who had this cancer? And at the time, over about a year period, we had 24 people, 24 people. Then about a year later, it was 36 people. Dr. Sato reached out to us and said, "Can we come down there? Can me and a team of people?" He brought his son, Marlena Orloff, John Castles, and they came down to Auburn and met with any of us that wanted to meet. And
Wow.
so about 30 something people and their families came, the community kind of came, and they did a little educational seminar. They toured Auburn, but their goal was to try to do some research, because they were doing research at the time in Huntersville, North Carolina. And so anyway, they were very interested. They asked if we would start a Facebook page, which we did, to really be able to communicate with everybody. It was just an easy way to do it. Well, to make a long story short, people in New York at CBS This Morning show saw our Facebook page. And because one of the producers had a friend that was diagnosed in Sweden or something like that, and they couldn't find out any information, but they found our page, saw our story, saw the video that we shared, and asked if they could come do a story on us. They went to Philadelphia, interviewed people there, met Lori Lee, who was the fourth girl that people see. Invited her to Auburn. We all met, and that's how kind of this national attention happened. Was CBS This Morning did a show. When they aired it, the Today Show saw it, asked if we would interview the next day. It was on NBC Nightly News, Today Show. But their goal, Danae, was not our goal. Their goal was to cast a negative light on Auburn. Our goal really became raising awareness, raising money for research, trying to see if there were other people associated with Auburn. So our goals were really two different things, and our story became very, unfortunately, sensationalized. It was a skewed view. It was only talking about the four girls. It said that we all lived together. It was just a lot of misinformation.
The media
But
seems to
over,
do that a lot.
I know. And then we were very fortunate that we had a really good interview with People Magazine, and then the Dr. Oz show invited us to come. And even though there were still things about that was kind of messed up, our goal was, and that's how I feel about this, or any time that I'm interviewed locally or whatever, is if one person could see what you're doing, if 480,000 people can see what you're doing, what you're talking about, and go get their eyes tested and dilated, then maybe we could help one person. Well, that's what ended up happening. Is after people saw the People article and the Today Show and Dr. Oz, we had more people contact us, and now there's 54 people who have some type of association with Auburn, either went to school there or worked there or was the child of a professor there, that kind of a thing. And ends up that in that group, over half of them are men, and most of the time they focus on all the women, but over half of them are men. And I think that's an interesting thing to point out too. And just so people know, the other misconception is that we lived on campus and it was all these girls and whatnot, but really only 8 of the 54 lived on campus. So we really don't know. We've had research, then we raised a lot of money, which was also something that helped with us being getting the national attention and being on TV and things. A lot of money was raised, and we were able to do a geospatial analysis that Auburn actually paid for. The university paid for. They did an amazing job with that. John Castles is who did that assessment, and then we raised enough money to do a genetic test that's being done now, and that's blood sampling that I think is really going to help the ocular melanoma community more
That's
so than
amazing.
us figuring out. Yeah. So we were very excited to have all that done. Like you said in the very beginning, we don't know. We've gotten the results back from John Castles, but it's a lot of information to sift through. And so
Mhm.
we don't know if there's something that connects us all. They haven't said yes or no yet. They've had the information for about a year, but still, when COVID hit, some of this was put on the back burner, and so now they're starting to look into it a little bit more. I definitely don't think the university knows anything or is hiding anything, because they've been so helpful, more than people realize.
Yeah.
They've been helpful in trying to figure stuff out. I don't have concerns about it. I have 2 children that went to Auburn, and so I don't have any concerns about.
You live in Auburn
And I
now,
live in
right?
Auburn,
Auburn,
which
Georgia.
is crazy.
Like,
Yes,
you
it's
live in the
crazy.
area now.
I do. I live in the area now. So all that to say, I think it's interesting that we have 36 people who actually went through the process of going through the interviews and answering all the questions, and hopefully we've, unfortunately, the 4 girls that were seen on TV a lot with, both Allison and Lori Lee have passed away. They passed away the same year. And Julie lives in Birmingham, and she's doing really well. She was diagnosed when she was 27, and she's just a year younger than I am, and I'm 51. So she's doing really well. But that's kind of just a very brief kind of where we are with that. I know that they're looking still at the Huntersville, the group. Neither one of us meet the definition of a cluster. That definition is very difficult to meet, but we
Mhm.
we do consider our group a unique grouping of people, and
Yeah, for sure.
we haven't stopped trying to figure out what's going on there. Um, it's just can be all it can be very time consuming to
Yeah.
focus on that. So,
And it's
but
not
anyway,
something that the research has yielded a definitive, this is the
no,
connection yet. So, okay.
unfortunately,
So, those of you who came thinking that I said that it was a cluster, so I should fix that later, but not officially a cluster.
right,
Just trying to research and
grouping,
find if there is a link between the
right,
grouping.
that's
Um,
correct.
okay. Well, thank you so much for clarifying
Yeah,
that. And I feel like that's important too, just to rectify some of what maybe sensational news and media did to try to maybe diminish the reputation of a university that
yes,
is doing
unfortunately,
everything they can to try and figure out if there is any connection that they, can help with. And they're
I
doing
agree.
a lot of things to try and fix that.
Mhm.
But I love what you said about how your main goal in just trying to talk to the news, talk to People Magazine, get on the Oz show was let's just make sure one other person gets their eyes dilated.
Yeah,
Like
I can't tell you
it
how many
really comes
people.
down to that, just one other
Yeah,
person. Like, and that one person matters. Like,
that's true. I can't tell you how many people. I mean, I've probably at least a dozen that just contacted me personally after seeing the Dr. Oz show in particular, who did go get a test, were diagnosed with ocular melanoma. And it was just shocking to me how many people reached out and
wow.
said, "I saw that," and that's what made me go get an eye exam. So we were thankful for that, for sure, for sure.
Well, That's crazy. And also, I think just it just speaks volumes to the work that you and your other friends that kind of got together and just started spreading awareness did. Um, okay, so I want to kind of shift gears. Let's focus for
Mhm.
the last little bit on your journey right now,
The
because
year.
a year ago in October of 2020, correct? You were
That's
diagnosed
correct.
with metastatic disease.
Mhm.
Um,
So, yes, I
Walk us
was.
through
Matter of
that.
fact, I had gone in just for regular scans, like I said, that I scheduled, myself, and, it had been 6 months. I had been on a 6-month surveillance at that point, and it was just I did an MRI without EVIST. I got a call, "Yes, you need to come in and speak with the oncologist," and I never had that where they typically, a nurse called me and said, "Everything looks fine," but this time it was "We need you and your husband to come in." I will say, and this is unusual, but I have a special relationship with Marlena Orloff in that, when we were doing all these um, interviews and stuff, she was with us a lot, and she and I became friends over this 8-year period of time. And so I texted Marlena and said, I've got this possibility of bad news. I'm about to go see the doctor. And she said, call me immediately, send me pictures immediately. So sure enough, I was in there with my doctor, was able to send her pictures immediately when I got the bad news. And of course, she really helped me navigate how to get to Thomas Jefferson quickly and get my scans digitally sent. My community hospital here was just very helpful in having all that done. So I got into Thomas Jefferson very quickly. We decided after looking, like I said, my liver looks like a buckshot. I mean, it's just innumerable tumors, and there's a lot of people that's kind of what their liver looks like. But at the time, I had 6 measurable tumors. We went ahead and went up to Philadelphia and decided to do immunoembolization because I had it on both right and left lobe. If you don't know how IE, that's what we call it, IE works. You do the right lobe 1 month, left lobe the next month. Dr. Gonzalez was my doctor, so I did that for 8 months. So October through May, I had immunoembolization, only to find out that it wasn't working. In May of 2021, they said there were innumerable growth, innumerable new tumors, rather, and then growth in all the tumors that were measurable. Back in the fall, I was very fortunate, though. The wisdom of these doctors at Thomas Jefferson, I just appreciate so much. They went ahead and tested me to see if I was HLA positive. And when they were going to biopsy the tumor to see was it truly metastatic or ocular melanoma or uveal melanoma, they went ahead and tested to see if I was PRAME positive with that biopsy. So I was very fortunate to have that done. That screening I already knew. So when May came around and they told me that it wasn't working, the PRAME trial had progressed to where they were about to do a dose escalation. There were 4 spots open in the United States. Thomas Jefferson got 1 spot, and literally I was told, "This isn't working, but we've got a spot for the PRAME trial. Would you be interested?" And I already knew the answer because I was able to. They educated me on PRAME way before May. So I
Mhm.
understood that
So you
if
didn't
that
have to
option,
research.
I
It was
didn't have to
like
research.
it was a decision that you had already made. Like if it became
Basically
available.
so. There were some questions, of course, my husband and I had. I was friends with Summer Erica, who was the first person on PRAME. The second person who was on PRAME she died,
Mhm.
who had the trial, but they discovered that it wasn't related to the drug, the reason that
Mhm.
she passed away. But Summer was a friend of mine, and she unfortunately the PRAME trial had to stop, and after that Summer passed away right after I was diagnosed with Mets, and it was devastating to me. And
Yeah.
so to see that they had to they had to scale back PRAME, start over with this dose escalation. And by the time it came to me, we were at the dose escalation was to 40 micrograms, which is what I started out at. So I've been doing that 15 weeks. You go once a week to have this infusion. And the cool thing today about it is um, with my last scans that were just done, I did show a partial response. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how exciting that was. But evidently, with PRAME, everybody that's on it has had a good response in that they've had stabilization of disease. One of the things that they will look at statistically is what they call overall survival, or if you see it written in a journal, it may be OS. They'll talk about the OS, the overall survival. And the overall survival rate of people on TEBI and PRAME had been extended. And so,
Mhm.
very positive results in terms of stabilization. But I was told that I was the first person to have a partial response, which meant I had a negative 34% growth, meaning I had shrinkage in tumors. The number of tumors that I had decreased. And I want to say, I asked Dr. Orloff, I think for it to be considered a partial response, you have to have a negative 20% or greater response. And I was the first person to do that. And so they're thinking 40 micrograms might be the sweet spot. And so right
Yeah.
now, there were 7 cohorts of people on PRAME. I'm in the 7th cohort. So, the first group got the smallest micrograms, and then, we each increased. Now,
Mhm.
if you're on the PRAME trial, you can be increased to the 40 micrograms. And they just started an 8th cohort that's on 80 micrograms, just to see. I think that's part of the dose escalation part of a trial, is seeing how high they can go
Yeah.
without it being too toxic. And so there are people on 80 micrograms now. But I don't have scans again until November 9th. But um, right now it's going well, is what I would say. It's going well.
I just feel like crying.
I know, it's such a big deal. It's such a big deal, and I completely bawled when I found out. Matter of fact, Taylor, who's one of the logistics person on the PRAME trial, who takes care of all the details for me, she said that when she got the report and she saw a partial response, she actually called the radiologist and said, "We've never seen this. Like, are you sure?" And she said that she just bawled. That she went running around to tell the team. Dr. Sato was so excited. They were
Yeah.
just beside themselves. They immediately, Marlena did a PowerPoint presentation and sent it to Immunocore, talking about my response. So it was a
That's
huge,
amazing.
huge deal, and very exciting to see. And so I
Not
think
just
there's
stabilization, but shrinkage. So
a
basically,
shrinkage.
partial response means the tumors are shrinking and
That's
there's less
correct.
of them.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
did
it's
have one
obviously
that's
not a full
still.
response, because full
Yeah,
response would mean everything was gone, but
right.
we're gonna hope
I
it
did
gets
have
there.
one tumor. I was gonna say I did have one of the 8 tumors that grew. And so
Mhm.
I always am like, "Why does that happen? Why
Why
do you
does
have to have
one
one
go
that goes
all of
rogue?"
them go down, but one goes rogue.
Yeah, why that? But I'm very excited about that, and the fact that, when people ask about, because a lot of people have asked me, they've reached out and saying, "How do you get to be a part of this?" And that's something I
Mhm.
wanted you and I to talk about. Um, to know if you're HLA positive is a simple blood test, and you can be HLA positive. Like, I have psoriasis on my skin, like my elbows and on my head, and I had talked to my rheumatologist about it, and he said, "Well, I knew you were HLA positive, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
because if you have autoimmune issues, a lot of times you are HLA positive." But PRAME, you can have a diagnosis, or a biopsy rather, of your eye and have PRAME in your eye, but you may not have PRAME in the metastasis, which I think is interesting. I didn't know that.
Okay.
And so some people will say, "Well, when I did the biopsy, they didn't even check for PRAME." Well, back when I had the biopsy of my eye, they didn't check for it. But so anybody out there who's like, what are questions I need to ask my doctor? If I'm having a biopsy done, ask them to check for PRAME. And also ask just to have the blood test to see if you're HLA positive. And the reason that you want to know those things is because this is what I was told from the Immunocore, who is doing the trials right now. They are making drugs that are going to help the most people that they can help. And so oftentimes people who do have metastatic disease with uveal melanoma are HLA positive. They're not always PRAME positive, but typically most of them are HLA positive. So obviously the drug they're going to try to come up with is going to treat most of the people. Okay. But the cool thing is, I also know that they are looking into drugs that are helping those who are not HLA positive.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to be disheartened out there who are like, "I'm neither. I'm not PRAME or HLA, and I've got metastasis. What's in it? Who can help
What's in
me?"
it for me?
Yeah,
Like,
I know
yeah,
that they're
really.
looking There's lots of options out there, but I do think if you are HLA and PRAME positive, um, there's some really, really cool things going on in the world of research, and that's pretty exciting. Mhm.
No, that is, I feel like that's just, I don't know. I guess I'm one of those people who like, like the Facebook groups or the support groups, and you read about people and they're sharing their scan news, or they're sharing, that they just got diagnosed or whatever's happening in their journey. But then, you get the occasional, and I think it's partly just related to what we focus on is what we see more of.
Yeah.
But I do know that when I notice one or two people who have posted that their scans came back and they had metastatic spread, um, that it can feel really triggering, like as someone
Yeah.
who's kind of living in between scans basically. It can feel so triggering, so it's so nice to, I think, just to take those with a grain of salt, and also recognize, yes, there's people that are being diagnosed because this is the nature of this cancer.
Mhm.
But at the same time, there's so much happening right now, and I think
It's
that
exciting.
that is such an exciting piece of the time that
It
we
can be
live in now.
exciting it can be exciting and discouraging at the same time,
Yes, I feel like it's
because the
kind of a
number of
mix of both, you're
people
right.
yeah, the number of people who want to be on this trial is significant. And
Mhm,
yet, the frustrating thing that we're having is for PRAME in particular, it's not just for uveal melanoma, like where TEBE was pretty much just uveal melanoma.
mhm.
PRAME is for other cancers as well. And so when these spots come open, the slots come open, they fill up very quickly. And
Yeah,
so that's why I'm wanting to get this message out that if you're being treated at Thomas Jefferson or at Vanderbilt or out in California or at MD Anderson and you are PRAME positive, let your doctor know if you have a spot, I want it.
yeah,
I
for
want
sure.
it. And I was very overt. I was very loud saying, Dr. Sato, if a spot comes open and I qualify, they're like, you don't want to get on the trial if what you're doing is working. So if IE was working, I would have kept on doing IE.
Yeah,
But
but at
as
the
soon
same
as it
time,
wasn't
you
working,
wanted them
yeah,
to know.
I
Yeah,
wanted them to know I'm ready. If you have a spot, please let me know. And so, but anyway, that can be very frustrating for people who
yeah, because there's
want a
limited
spot
spots, especially.
and there's not one.
So I do have a question, just maybe so you can clarify. I know we've talked a little bit about TEBI, which is the HLA positive. You have to be HLA positive to go on
Mhm.
TEBI. And TEBI is a
It's the FDA
newer.
drug coming out
It's
in
the yes,
2022. Mhm.
it's coming to FDA approval in 2022, I believe in February or March,
Right.
unless they push it back because the FDA does
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that one is HLA positive only. Now,
Right.
how does the PRAME qualification work? Do you have to
You have to
just be
be
PRAME
both.
positive? You have to be both. Okay.
You have to be both.
So
Yep.
I feel that again, that that mix of like, okay, well, this is hopeful, but also like, oh, jab, because I am PRAME positive, but
Yeah.
I'm not HLA1 or HLA. My blood test came back negative for HLA positive.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, for me personally, and for I know other people
Mhm.
who are class 2 and who are HLA negative. Um, and like you said, it can be encouraging to hear your good news, but also it just makes me slightly more anxious that, like, please come up with something that will work for the rest of us.
Right, and
um,
you know what I found today is, like, I think with the PRAME, I bet and then this is just me being optimistic, but with Immunocore knowing basically the way it was described to me is the reason that this PRAME trial is working is, Dr. Orloff was saying, like, if this is your cancer, it's like your immune system goes by your cancer and doesn't even recognize it. It just goes on by. But now what they're doing is they're targeting if you have PRAME on your cancer cells. And when
mhm.
your immune system comes by, that PRAME acts as a magnet to draw over your immune system to attack it. So I'm thinking if they know that it's PRAME, that they're going to be able to come up with something for those HLA negative people. It's
Yeah,
it's
they just have to
PRAME
find
that
the
is
link.
right. They have to find the link and the
Yeah,
T cell receptors and all those things that I don't understand.
which we
But
know that they're doing. They're doing as much research as they
that's what I'm
possibly
saying.
can,
They
as
are
quickly
all
as they
over it.
can.
They are
Um,
all over it as
and
quickly as
that
they can.
I mean, I feel like I've talked with other patients about this too, but I feel like it comes down to just being able to practice and learn how to sit with the uncertainty that none of us
Yes.
like. None of us like. You
You know
have
what?
tons of
Yeah.
uncertainty now still. Even though you have good news, you still have
Mhm.
uncertainty that you have to confront every day.
And that's how, I guess, getting back to what you said in the beginning, we all deal with things differently with how we cope with all this.
Mhm.
And for me personally, it is a faith issue for me. I do have a very strong personality and a very optimistic personality, and I'm definitely one who's going to be like, don't tell me it can't be done because I'm gonna, I can get it done. But I do think, the way that I cope with it too is that keeps me from being so anxious about it does have to do with my faith and just knowing I just am one of those who I believe that God has a plan for my life. He has a purpose, and He's written out my days before I was born. And I don't have a fear of what's going to happen afterwards. I don't want to die, but I'm also just living every day. And if you watch me, there are people who are like, how are you feeling? How do you feel in praying? Because I see you like going all over the world. It looks like I'm doing all kinds of stuff. But there's a part of me, the silver lining to this, and I'm sure you're living this way now today as I watch you on social media. The silver lining to it is not taking anything for granted, forgiving when you need to forgive, loving well, living well, being intentional. I'm extremely intentional with my family, with my friends, when I do go out of town, when I meet people, being given the opportunities to take my daughter to New York for her birthday, something like that. I mean, I would have never done that before, if I'm honest with you, but I'm just very intentional with making sure that I'm living well and doing the best that I can. And I will tell you that I don't feel well for at least 2 days after treatment. If I have treatment, I fly to Philly on Sunday. Monday, I have treatment. Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm toast. Thursdays, I'm doing pretty good. Friday, I'm okay. I need to turn around on Sunday and go back through it again.
Well, I'm
And
glad we
and
caught you
it's
on an upswing today.
yes, it's a good day
But I
today.
mean,
Today's a good day.
so much love for just the
Mm,
journey and how it feels because I can't even
it's a
imagine
lot.
that. I'm just on
It's
a
a lot.
clinical trial that's adjuvant, and so I take medication every other day right now with this
That's
with
right.
Sato and Orloff's adjuvant trial with Sutent and BPA, and every other day I'm wiped.
Yeah.
But I'm close to the end, so like silver lining, right?
Yeah.
um,
I love that you're doing that because I didn't know even stuff like that was available.
yeah, I feel like
Um,
I've got to have somebody interview me.
yes, exactly.
um,
I would
can't
love to do
interview
that. I always do.
myself. Yeah,
You
you.
could.
We should schedule that. Okay. Well,
Mhm.
I wanted to just as we get to the end, I wanted to um, kind of draw attention. You shared a post on Facebook with a video that kind of just shared your journey thus far, especially this last year
Mhm.
with stage 4 metastatic uveal melanoma, and you just talked about journaling on Facebook. And one of the big things that you talked about was, um, oh, where did it go? You said something about near life experiences. How
Oh, I
sometimes we
stole
talk
that.
about near death experiences. Like
Yeah.
we talk about
I
like I was almost in a car accident. Disclaimer. Um, yeah,
mhm.
that was just I can't. Night driving is not so great, but I have choir practice, and I was almost in a car accident a week ago, and
Mhm.
and it could have been really bad, but it was a
Mhm.
very near miss. That was a near death or near accident experience. So you
Yeah.
talked about though near life experiences. So
Mhm.
kind of explain what that means.
So, yeah, I did. I stole that from Dustin, no, from, Aaron Davis, and Aaron was speaking. He got an award in 2017, the Wings of Hope Award, and he recently posted, or his daughter posted, I think it was his daughter, posted his speech, and that came from there. I saw that and I thought, "I've never heard that term before," and I loved it. And it's just basically, if you're not careful, you're going to miss those near life experiences. And he talked about how, you might have that child, like in your case today, that they just want one more bedtime story. And you're just like, I'm just so tired. I just want to go downstairs and have my time. But just being able to read that one more bedtime story, or, to maybe you're invited to something, but you're just like, I just don't know that I just want to stay in tonight. Why not go? Why miss that experience? And I mean, within reason, you know what I'm saying? And I think for me, I look for those near life experiences. I have this like really unique opportunity right now. Every time I go to Philly, every Sunday night, I eat at the same restaurant because I've met the same people. It's like home to me. Like they know I'm coming. They go ahead and plan a table for me. And I saw this lady sitting by herself every time I ate there. Every Sunday she was by herself. And so I went over and met her. Her name's Miss D. She's absolutely delightful. And I started inviting her to eat dinner with me every Sunday. And every Sunday I bring a different person. I have a different friend come with me, or I have three sisters, and my sister-in-laws have come, my children have come with me. And I'm so excited because now people are also getting to meet Miss D, and she's eating with us. But it's those near life experiences of that you don't want to miss. You don't want to take things for granted. Like I said, you want to be just intentional, so that we don't miss those things that can be just really special, and they can be so simple. They don't have to be big. It's just, what about that person that you're pumping your gas and they're standing across from you, and just being able to speak to them and
Yeah.
encourage other people and have those relational type of things that sometimes we wouldn't necessarily have. You just don't want to miss those near life experiences.
No, I love
Mhm.
that. Um,
Mhm.
in my like the last few years, I have kind of defined some of those as like looking for pockets of joy.
Yes.
Um, like looking for those, and because Brene Brown talks about this all the time. She talks about how so many people live life looking for the big things. They're
Mhm.
waiting for the big awesome thing to happen in their life that just makes their life better.
Mhm.
And they're missing all of these little, she calls them twinkle lights. But you're
Yeah.
you're you're missing, if you're looking for the big light and the big bam in your life, you're
Mhm.
missing the tiny moments, the ones that really,
Right.
when you add them all together, all those little twinkle lights make, a whole Christmas tree, or they light up the entire
Mhm.
room with these
Yeah.
twinkle lights of these tiny little moments. They're just pockets of
Mhm.
joy. And they're moments that they're those near life experiences, those ones that you
Mhm.
have to choose to be present with, like you said.
Yeah.
And that is like, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with what I do. But my kids at bedtime can be, I mean, they're 8 and 5.5 and 2, and
Yeah.
they're
Exhausting.
in the whole realm of FOMO is a thing for them. They don't want to miss
Mhm.
anything. And so
Yeah.
they're just like, "Ugh, can you please maybe, sing me one more song or read me like one more book?" And I have I have just kind of tried my best to, like you said, just make it a practice that I look at that as a moment that I don't want to miss.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
but
I
it's
think
it's
too,
more
because
important.
I can tell you have this kind of heart even to be doing what all you're doing, because I appreciate everything you do for Cure Insight, and we appreciate you so much. But I was going to say, just looking for ways to serve other people
Yeah.
and to
And
love
it
on
can be
other
at
people.
home. It can, like you
Hmm.
said, it could be the grocery store clerk. It could be the person at the
Yeah.
gas station who you just wave and you just say hi. It could be on
Hmm.
the freeway. Like I feel like just on the freeway or the highway when you're driving somewhere
Hmm.
and you just choose to let somebody in instead of,
Yeah.
speeding up to cut them off. Like
Right. It's
um
simple. It's
it's just the
simple.
little things.
I
But
agree.
those things, I feel like those are the things that make up life as we know it. So,
Hmm. We need
well,
more of it,
yeah,
especially
we need
after
more of
the
it.
past couple of years. We definitely
Agreed.
need more of it.
Agreed.
And more
Okay,
of it.
well, I need to go and get my
Yes.
kiddos picked up, but I did want to end really quick with this, because I've been trying to do this with every interview. I know this is kind of throwing you on the spot, but do you happen to have a song right now that if you listen to this song, it's just a really uplifting song? It could be one from church or just,
Yeah.
Imagine Dragons or whatever.
Mhm. Well, it's kind of funny. I'm an '80s girl, so my genre of music is all over the place. I could listen to Guns N' Roses one day and be singing my heart out. The next day, I might be listening to Bruno Mars, 24 Karat Gold, and just have that kind of jazzy little step in me. I think I love me some JT and Chris Stapleton, and we'll listen to them. Because I like performers. I like people who perform like Bruno Mars and JT, Justin Timberlake. But I am one who I do share a lot of praise songs, like on my Facebook page, because I have this mentality that of God fighting my battles for me, and that sometimes these praise songs are going to be those ones that I can kind of help me focus on Him, and being encouraged rather than letting Satan discourage me with what all I'm going through. And so I've got "Run to the Father." That's a Christian song that I love. "The Blessing" by Carrie Job, and I listen to that a lot. Of just me being able to just stop and again focus on things that are positive. I love music, so I saw that question on there. I didn't know you were going to ask it today, but I did think, I'm one of those who I like a little jaunty tune that I can kind of shake around to that kind of keeps me, that keeps me going. And but definitely those songs of worship really seem to be the ones that kind of
Just
help me
ground
deal
you.
with the stress of it. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing those, and I'll make sure
Yes,
that I got those spelled right, and we can add those into the show notes so people can go and
that's
listen to
right.
those.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Mhm,
Ashley, I can't thank you enough. I feel like we can't possibly have had enough time, so we may have to have you back for part two in the next 6 months or so as you are going through more of this trial and kind of understanding more of what's happening with the PRAME trial for you.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I feel like that would be kind of cool, so maybe we can kind of toy with that idea in the calendar. Um, but we're just grateful that you were willing to be here, and I'm
Well,
grateful I got to talk to you.
I'm so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for this group, and encourage people that if you haven't been on the support group, I don't get to come on there every Tuesday because I'm traveling home on that day. But that support group has been very encouraging and very educational. I think if y'all can watch a Cure in Sight, and then any way that you can, anybody that's watching this with ocular melanoma, if you have any questions, I just want people to know they can send me a private message. I'm an open book. I would love for people to just kind of follow my journey. I have a separate little page that my sisters came up with. It's got a silly name. It's called Ashley's Eye Levies. And if you just don't want to keep up with me and my family on Facebook, but just my ocular melanoma journey, you can go to Ashley's Eye Levies for that. And it's just the ocular melanoma stuff and not my kids going to
Well,
homecoming.
I mean, your kids going to homecoming is definitely one
It's
of those
fun to
awesome
watch.
things. It's
Mhm.
super fun.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, so Ashley's I Lovies is where you can find her ocular
Mhm.
melanoma journey and her uveal melanoma journey as she has been
Yes.
treated with for the PRAME trial. Ashley's Lovies, is it LO or LV?
It's
LUV.
Loveys, Ashley's I Love Yous, so mhm.
Ashley's I Lovies. I'm just going to write that down, put that in the show notes too. Okay,
Mhm.
well, oh my goodness. This is
Thank you for your time
been
today. I know you gotta go get your
such an
kids.
amazing time. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Mhm.
Um, and we will talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good. You have a
All
great
right.
day.
You
All
too.
right,
Bye.
bye-bye.